Hello. I always lean over and turn off the loud ass air filter thing right before I go live, so it always looks like I'm doing this.
Hello.
All right. We'll give everybody a second to get here.
All righty then.
Yeah, I bought all these Gene Key books. I bought the big one.
Nice. And you've got all the other, okay.
I'll probably never read them.
Well, they're kind of like having astrology books around. Like you're only going to read like your portion, which is this much. And the book is like, you could stand on it to get to a higher shelf.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's more of a reference than anything. So where are you in all of that? I know you've got the books. I know you are diving in.
So
what do you know about it?
I went online and I got my profile or whatever, right? And then I read maybe, because 55 is an interesting one in that it doesn't go straight into the shadow. It goes into a whole thing about humanity. And so, which is weird because do you know much about human design?
Mm-hmm.
My incarnation cross is the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is where humanity goes in 2027. So it's funny that I do the 55 and it's just talking about the ascension, basically.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Yes. So how much do you know about like Gene Keys and human design? Like they're sister systems.
Okay.
Say that 5 times fast. So when the creator, the channel for human design, he started sharing it in the 80s was when he channeled it. And I call him Steve. I don't know his actual name and his chosen, I don't know. So Steve, we'll call him Steve. he brought it in and started teaching and sharing this. And then the guy who channeled the Gene Keys was actually one of the very first human design readers. And he did that for about a decade. And he always had the sense that it needed more, like there was something else to it. And so they were kind of at loggerheads about it. So he went off and had his own trip.
So this is like Carl Jung and the other guy.
And
this is like acting like I know anything about it.
It's interesting that you brought up the incarnation cross, because when I do readings for human design, that is the place where I sort of step over into Gene Keys, because they are an overlay right there at the incarnation cross is where they merge. And so human design is kind of like who you are, like in yourself, in your body, how you operate, at least the way that I see it and work with it. And then Gene Keys is how you take that out into the world, like what you do with that.
Okay. So would everyone who has the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is weirdly a shit ton of people in this community, would they all also have this 55th Gene Key?
That is a very interesting question. And I can't say that for certain, because in human design, I looked at it and I came to the Gene Keys first.
Okay.
So I always just skip right over the incarnation cross, because there's never enough, like it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always just skip over. My intuition says yes.
Okay.
But I cannot say that for certain.
My oldest daughter has the same incarnation cross as me, so maybe I'll look up her profile later and see.
Yeah, because I feel like all of the names are for specific combinations. And like the incarnation cross, there's like where there's like 5 types, but like
Right.
the incarnation cross, you could have like there's like 70 something of them. So
That's so interesting that they were like working together, and then he was like, you can't channel my thing. All right.
I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but yeah, it was they knew each other. And so they're set up very, very similarly, and that they're the synthesis of all the esoteric stuff. I think there's like 7 or 9 different systems, you know, the I Ching and all that stuff.
I did notice there's hold on, I'm getting YouTube comments, which should be okay, never mind. Sorry. I'm just getting a flood of YouTube comments weirdly right now. I thought maybe there were people who couldn't figure out the live stream. Okay, so the 55th, and I also didn't read the beginning of the book, and I think I probably have a pretty shallow understanding of the gene keys.
Mm-hmm.
But you said the human design is who I am, and the gene keys is what I am in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, how do you take that into the world? What do you do with that? Like, once you know who you are and your energetic makeup, which is it's a simplified explanation.
Right.
But yeah, it's like okay, so then now I know who I am. What do I do with it? Where do I take this energy? How because neither one of these says you will be a dentist or you will be, you know, an artist. They're not saying that. It's
Right.
more about how will you do it in the world?
Right.
You know, like it's like a quality to it. What is the quality that you bring? And human design for me, it's so poetic and deep, and just the contemplation of it when you're walking around and this is on your mind and it's you just kind of rubbing it, you're getting that pearl of like, oh, okay, this is about the deeper experience of being human.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how I fit into the big human drama.
Right. Do you think it like I really didn't read much of it. I made it through like 5 pages, and then I slipped into an 8-day long depression, and my physical body stopped working. But a couple things that really struck me was the timing of it, because the 55th gene key talks a lot about the shadow of victimization, and you know, kind of like essentially what I would call getting trapped in the matrix or getting addicted to the conflict, which is something that I've been thinking a lot about. I haven't been talking about it too much because it's not the moment, but I've been thinking a lot about external enemies and the external experience, and how really the shift from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius is the shift from an externally lived experience to an internally lived experience. And that we are not going to solve these external problems of, let's say, the government or whatever, externally. We are going to have to figure out the control panel inside of us that like changes the environment. And that's kind of what I got from what I did read about the 55th. And I have a lot of shifts in the kind of content I'm creating and the kind of art I'm going to be making where, and this was before I read that, so this was like a good confirmation for me, focusing on that control panel and focusing on, like, not to quote the Bible, but like the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Like we're not going to get anywhere in this with external effort. There's a control panel inside of us that can change the entire landscape. We have to figure out how to work that. It's also a lot of what I got about Atlantis was we went from having an internal life experience to falling asleep, which is like going to the external, blew it up, and then came back and did whatever. 12,000 years of the external experience. So we have one yes on the 55th and one no, but she does have the 51st. It's interesting too, the other people who have the sleeping phoenix. I can totally see the similarities in our personalities. So I'm going to shut up. And so I gave you my birth information, right? And
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
This is exciting for me because I might not have gotten everything out of it because it would require me to do work. And every time I start to read it, I go to sleep. But I'm like interested, but I trans.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And in the beginning, like you said, you didn't read the beginning of the book. And basically what he's saying is that by reading this and going into this, you're actually changing the frequency of your being. Your DNA is changing and transforming by coming to this awareness. And that's something that I read way back when, and I'll go back to it every now and again. And I'm like, okay, so how I'm very like, okay, show me like how this works. How does that work exactly? And in the energy work that I do, the messages that I get repeatedly are when you come to conscious awareness, that is when you can step into your sovereignty and make different choices. So you're like activating, you're flipping, like you said, the control panel, you're starting to flip different switches. And that is, there's so much about that in our chemistry and our brain chemistry and the hormones that move through our body. It changes how we are able to act and react in the world.
Okay.
So it's literally changing us at that quantum level, which is so fascinating because DNA and the synapses in our brain, they are the size of where we switch over from Newtonian physics, like physical, like matter, to quantum physics of the teeny tiny particle stuff.
Wow.
So that's the entryway. That's the doorway, is our brain chemistry that affects how we move through the world, how we think, how we feel, how we move.
Is this insane? Because right when I read this, I've been having this weird body stuff, and I obviously Lyme or whatever, but I this round of body stuff feels different. And I've
Mhm.
always said when I talk about home birth back in the day, I would talk about it's excruciating pain, but the pain of something healing, even when it's rough or doing what it's supposed to do, versus the pain of there being something wrong or imbalance is a different kind of pain.
Mhm.
And I haven't been able to get out of bed. Um, I've actually done all right for the last couple days, but for like 8 straight days, I like made it out of bed for an hour to give my kids some semblance of Halloween fun. And other than that, I've just been staring at a wall. I haven't been able to talk to people. I haven't. So it's like depression, no energy, like no space for anything.
Mhm.
And during that, my knee something happened to my knee. My knees have felt weird for 6 months, and I've written a lot of that off to the tick. But like, I have a pretty good like ability to like diagnose things in my body because I can kind of like tune in, and it's fucking strange. Whatever's happening to my body is weird. And
Mhm.
if I had to describe what it felt like I was taken out of commission, like disconnect, like the avatar was disconnected and it
Mhm.
was being worked on. And a lot of what I'm experiencing with like memory, even the brain fog, I can write all of this off to the tick thing, but like the longer it's happening, and that can be two things at once, right? It can be the
Mhm.
tick and then also, um, when I had it, like I got a brace for my knee and I just like, I don't have health insurance. So I figure most things out myself, but I could not walk for days, which led to me feeling more and more trapped. And the knee is still weird. Um,
Left or right.
huh?
Left or right.
Right,
Right.
right.
Mhm.
But they're both weird. The if I had to describe how the right one felt, it felt like it was missing a piece or had a piece in it that didn't belong in it. And nerve pain across the top of it. Like if I pressed on it, it was like nerve pain. And if I just left my legs sitting there, it would suddenly like twist weird, as if I was not controlling my limbs. And walking, if you saw me walking earlier, I'm walking like like I don't know whose legs these are. I have rapidly gained 20 pounds, and it just and I feel like I'm just waiting out some sort of like upgrade, and that's what's happening. I feel a complete fucking peace about it. The 8 days of severe no energy was rough because I'm someone who does identify quite a bit with my productivity, but had just like gotten into the gene key thing. Mark read a lot more than I did.
Mhm.
Talked about the mutation. And when I tap into that, I'm like, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like my body is, and we have to do that at some point, upgrade to these beings. That's like, I've known that for 20 years, that like we would evolve into a different kind of being that didn't age and didn't die. And we would evolve into something that could withstand what the earth was going to have to do to wipe everyone out, is what I was told. And I've only like gotten confirmation of that with Gene Key talking about the mutation, right? Go ahead. You'll probably.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it's all throughout the book, but the 55th specifically is kind of like where that comes to roost and where he like really explains that. And I believe, like you said, moving from Homo sapien to I think Homo universalis,
Mm-hmm.
which is a term that I don't know that I've heard elsewhere. I thought I think he calls it Homo sanctus, but I think it's
I might be mixing that up because
yeah, I think it's the same thing. I was like, if that's what your guides told you, like, bang on. Because yeah, and you know, the human design talks about the new race coming, that there will literally be different humans that are born in 2027. And we're like right there. And I mean, even just the kids that are born now, they're
right.
different. They're just like I look at these little beings and I'm like, that I was not that, and I knew no one who was, you know, this way. Just the beingness that they carry with them. So yeah, it's all talking about how these changes that we are making, that those 8 days in bed, that change, that upgrade that's happening within you is allowing us to collectively, like that's affecting the energy field of the whole, like your inner world, your family, as well as wider, especially like to your audience. That's changing the frequency of what we're all collectively able to achieve.
Wow. I also feel like my hard drive has been wiped, and it's difficult to even communicate right now.
Mhm.
Brain fog really hasn't been a thing, but the communication thing has, because when I say I don't know what I believe, I like honestly don't know what I believe right now. What it feels like is we are, and typically I'll get these downloads like a few months before like the mass gets it, right? And so before that 60 download hit in January, I was getting like um downloads about the downloads in September. And before the July ones came in like February, I was getting this info. Hello, kitty. Go over here and rub your head on some.
Precious.
So cute. She does this only during live streams. Um, I have seen that we are going to get um a download and upgrade to the body and the earth, and then everyone who's not operating in not unity, in harmony with that upgrade is going to, like, this is when the earth steps into this game. And so if everyone isn't working in harmony with the earth, things are going to go very difficult for them.
Mhm.
And I think that that could be what is happening right now. But what it feels like is that we are the game that I know the rules to, the game that I feel comfortable in calling the trajectory, the game that whatever, that game is like on its way out, and a
Mhm.
completely new thing is downloading. And so it's hard for me to even talk right now because I'm like, I don't know. we are departing
Mhm.
where the fuck we've been. And I don't know if this is another split. I don't know if this is like I really don't know. I have some ideas, and what's interesting is a lot of these ideas are like we have to address the addiction to our victimization, and that's why I just don't want to talk about it yet. Uh, because there's an opt-in to the reality that you're in. There is like in the internal thing, there is an opt-in, and um we have to start using this internal control panel to work on the external reality. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in circles now, but I have felt like I don't have anything to say right now because I only have half of it. And I feel like we aren't in the place yet. Something's going to happen. I think it's going to be an energetic update that's going to happen, that it's going to be like obvious. Okay, so now we need magic. Like that's it. Like magic is the only solution to this.
Mhm.
And we aren't there yet. You've been going through this as well, right? Like the brain wipe.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I told you before coming on here, like I used to have like thoughts, like I know what I'm about to say.
Mhm.
And now it's like blank. I'm like hearing it as I'm saying it to you, like we're hearing it together. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Which is why I'll go like, wait a minute, like I'm really trying like this, I feel like I need to make sure. And information coming in, it's very much like a bad connection on a cell phone where
Yeah.
like I'll hear and then there'll be like blank words like in between. Like I'm just hearing like and I'm like what was that? Like contextual, like could you repeat what?
Yeah.
A lot of that. A whole lot of that. I just don't get the
Um,
info, and which I used to be like a great communicator and I could like have it all like laid out and planned and yeah, I got none of that anymore.
did you deal with that in 2012? Were you awake in 2012? Oh. 2012, there was this memory wipe that happened, and then for a brief time, linear memory went away, and it
Mm.
stacked on top of itself. Um, hold on one
I
second.
was just kind of emerging, just, just at that point, I was just like growing into not being an awful human being. So it
Yeah,
was like just it was super basic. I've not the awakening that I have now.
yeah. Um, can we chill? Can we chill with this? Um, no, we cannot. That's the answer to that. All right. So I keep like talking. What okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and take that. Thank you. The ADD, my God, my brain cannot handle any stimuli. You want me to participate in a conversation and also have anything else going on in the environment? It's not gonna happen.
No.
I am hopeful that it's because our hard drive is getting wiped. We're going to be streaming, and we don't quite like know how to stay on that channel yet, and so it gets whatever. And then I feel like in a couple of years, probably way sooner than that, it will all go very smoothly, and we won't be idiots. That's my hope. Or we're telepathic, and I don't need to communicate. But I'm gonna new job. You know what I mean? Is there going to be like telepathic comedians?
Uh,
Um,
yeah, sign me up.
that would be so sick. Oh my
That
God.
yeah, that sounds like great fun. And now I'm working on being like the opposite of telepathic. Like I'm feeling the energy, I'm feeling what other people are, and I'm like working on closing that down and strengthening that boundary and saying like, is this mine? If it's not, like, nope. So yeah, working real hard on those boundaries these days. And also like dealing with the like someone will come in and I'll realize later that I've been totally kind of in my own bubble, and they'll leave in a huff about something because I didn't notice I didn't telepathically pick up on their whatever they
Sure.
were trying to communicate without communicating. And I'm like,
Yeah.
use your words. Come on, we can do this.
They need you to play a role for them. That's something I'm like, ooh, Mark and I were just talking about this. Like, people, like, I needed every external enemy I've ever had so that I could learn the lessons that I needed to learn.
Mhm.
And then I would heal to a point where I would go, oh, they were just operating in their best, whatever. Even to this day, when I have an external experience, like an external enemy experience, like that person's playing a role for me. And
Mhm.
that's how I started to word it when I'm like, right now I'm triggered about that person because they're playing the role of right side of the tracks and I'm playing wrong side
Mhm.
of the tracks. And this is a story I'm still working on, whatever.
Mhm.
But letting myself play a role for other people without
Mhm.
needing them to see me as how I see myself or needing them to know how I feel about that. You know what I mean? Just like being like, okay, do you need me to abandon you right now? Because I'm not even like on that at all. I just need space or whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and that's the recurring theme of that 55. It's just there. It's the place where you start. It is that life's work. It's that place where you enter in, and then you'll come back around to it and see it in a new way, because the gene keys is set up to be a path where you enter in. There is this sequence that you go through, and it takes you on this journey of your awakening, your unfolding, of your growth. And it is set up in a circle so that you return back and you'll see it in a completely new way.
so what is my journey? I'm gonna shut up.
Your journey is the whole sequence, the whole round. I have yours here if I can do it without like sharing all your personal deets over here.
And I've given them out several
It's this whole thing, and it starts at the top. And then it goes through this like zigzag sort of pattern. Everyone's pattern is the same, but their numbers are all different. Their particular steps on the path are different. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, yours starts out with that victimization. And for each one, for each sphere that you go through, there's 3 frequency bands. So it's really been fascinating for me to look at the world through this lens of there is the frequency of the shadow, the gift, and the city, which is sort of like the enlightened perspective of it when you sort of transcend it and it's inside out. And this is like the Buddha consciousness, the Christ consciousness, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So the shadow is just unaware. It's just your human reactive. You're not paying any attention to this. It's just you've been wounded in some way around this particular area and you're just in reaction.
Okay.
So that's like how you enter in. And when you begin to see those patterns, when you come to consciousness around that, then you can move to that next frequency band. It's using that same power, that same energy, but in a new way. Like you're harnessing it in that gift um, perspective.
Okay. So, first thing would be you're experiencing it unconsciously, life is happening to you. Next phase is there's a lesson here for me to learn, is the perspective?
There's not only a lesson, that's sort of like the journey, like the bridge to get to the gift. And the gift, the middle way, is that you are learning what that holds for you and how to move forward with that in the world.
Okay.
It's not just that there is a lesson, but it's like playing with that energy. What does this do in the world? Like
Okay.
we talked about the control panel. You're just like, okay, what does this button do?
Okay.
So yeah, yours, the victimization leads to freedom. That is the gift that's hidden there. And I still had yours turned over to I'm looking for my notes here. And this one is interesting because It's the 55 is also the only one that the gift and then the transcendence is the same word,
Oh,
which I
wow.
thought was interesting. Oh, and this is the one where he talks about the dragonfly. I'll have to tell you about the dragonfly in a second.
And the gift and the gift and the transcendence are both freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So funny. It's like my most obsessed, like, if I had to pick one word of, like, what my number one priority in every circumstance is freedom. Like, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's really it's so funny. There's so much about all of your chart that I'm like, oh, that's so Jessa. I love it when that happens. And I also love when I'm having these conversations with people that I don't know and haven't been listening to for a while, where they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's, I totally, yeah. And they get to the end and they're like, you haven't told me a ton that I don't already know, but I see it all in a completely new way. Like,
Yeah,
to me, that's like perfect because it means that you're aware and you're paying attention
yeah.
to what works and what doesn't for you. Like you already intuitively know this. Like it's in you. So yeah, that's
That
just my
is my yeah, that is my ideal, um, outcome for, like, a reading, is I don't wanna tell you a bunch of shit that, like, is completely foreign to you. I want it to be like a confirmation. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Um, this one I'm looking at my notes here. Da, 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 da. Reading through the freedom part, I just kept coming up with a couple of things. One thing was like mycelium is like you mushrooms.
Mhm.
And so a mushroom is actually like you'll have one here and you'll have one like way over there, but they're actually connected. They're one organism because of everything that's underneath the surface.
Yeah.
So it's about like this freedom to travel through space and time.
Oh, wow.
It's learning how the mechanics of that work. And your conversations about hacking all the time. Like I'm gonna learn how to hack this particular aspect. Um, that came up again and again and again. Um, because it is about the the freedom of awareness, which I just absolutely love.
It really is the freedom in the game.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, and the other thing that kept coming up again and again in your chart was that you talk about interdependence,
Mhm.
and how we're moving to that as a way of being. Um, but this particular, the 55 to me speaks of there's the codependence, which we're actually all born into. When you're an infant, you are codependent. Like you
Right.
need that. It's a healthy developmental stage to rely on someone else for your needs. And then in a perfect world, in healthy development, we grow to independence, which
Right.
is if we're looking at it at the three frequency bands. Um, the independence is learning your individual self and the freedom that comes when you're on your own, when you're making your own choices, you're stepping into your own sovereignty. Um, and then moving from independence. You can't just do everything alone, but
Right.
it's a healthy developmental stage to move towards interdependence. And interdependence is one and one makes three. It is, I'm an individual, I'm an independent person, and so are you. And we're choosing to come into relationship, whether that is romantic or friendship or business or whatever it is. We're choosing to come in relation with one another, and we make a third entity, which is the relationship.
Right.
Instead of the old joke about like in codependency, like a half and half makes a quarter.
Yeah. I've never actually heard that before. That's a fucking fantastic
It's
description.
not like you complete me, it's like you take me down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, because my second thing, and let me know if I'm jumping ahead here, is 59, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
about learning through relationships.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, that doesn't sound familiar to you at all, does it?
At all. It's my whole thing. It is nice to have some justification for it, though. You know what I mean?
And be like, it's in my gene keys, like. Oh, man. Like in starting a relationship, it's almost like here, like, do you want to know what you're even getting into? Like, here you go. You don't say you weren't warned.
I really almost did do that. I kind of did. It was almost like I was trying to talk him out of it for a while. I was like, all right, here's the deal. I have this attachment system, all of this. I have to fucking study this entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite drug, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is that a journey from 55 to 59 for me?
It is, and it's really interesting in that they are the first two and then the second two of like the first phase of your journey. There's the awakening, there's books that you had that you showed.
Uh-huh.
There's the 3 sort of companion books.
Uh-huh.
There's the awakening or activation, I think is what they call it, for the first one. Yeah. So see those 4 dots?
Uh-huh.
Those are the 4 that we're talking about.
Okay.
In this part, because I could go on for hours about the rest of it, but have to have to contain it somehow. So you start at the very top one.
Okay.
You go down clockwise to the right.
Okay. This seems fine.
Yeah. And then you go across the middle and then down to the bottom. So it's super funky.
Huh.
But,
that's that cool thing.
Yeah.
So just so you guys know, I bought the Gene Keys book, but I wanted screenshots of some of the stuff, so I just just typed in Gene Key 55, and everything from the book is on the internet for free that I found. I don't know about these. I literally have not done anything with these yet.
Those really kind of tell a little bit deeper about each one of the gene keys, and it kind of gives you a flavor. So there's 6 lines, and without getting too much into the technical details of it, you're a 1-3 in your human design. Is that right? I'm looking. Hold on. Let me check my little thing. Yeah, you're the 1-3.
Okay.
And so that translates over here. Now, how do I get back to you? Uh-oh, I lost you. There we are. Okay. Yeah, that translates over here. Like I said, they're sister systems. So you are a first line in your 55, which is a creator. Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
And talking about originality. So that victimization to freedom, it's about being free to express yourself. That quality that you bring is creating something new and original, and it has to come from deep within. And you'll just like plow through other stuff if it feels like it's derivative in any way, or like it's a copy or been done before. Like it really is for that deep sense of I'm living in my purpose. It's gotta come from you, just the original.
Okay, that all checks.
I was gonna say, does that it seems to me like that tracks, but I always like to check in.
Yeah, I have am like obsessed and fixated on the idea of freedom And a lot of time that freedom is like freedom to be myself. And like a lot of my journey in life is figuring out how many connections have to be eliminated, how far do I have to get outside of society to be able to be my authentic self. And it's actually been coming up again lately.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll throw away opportunities if I like,
Mhm.
if I feel like I've thrown away career opportunities because it felt like they were gonna take 50% of my voice and then do something with it, and that feels like prison to me. The idea, and I don't
Mhm.
care how much money you're gonna give me for that. Like, if I don't get to be myself, I don't wanna do it.
Mhm. And that's reinforced in your 34 as well, like, further down the track.
Okay.
That's reinforced with, "Nope, I'm moving on. I'm moving on." Like, super okay with that.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and the 59, ooh, this one is interesting. I find that there's always a little nugget for me that unlocks things. It's like the key turns and the tumblers fall. And this one's been really interesting for me to look at, experience, because as I'm going through the book and looking up your stuff, I don't necessarily have the 59 in my chart, but the unfolding of the DNA and the activations within me occur as well.
Right,
You can read beyond just your own, even though that's like the best place to start.
right.
Um, so yeah, this idea of um, what you're here to learn. And this second one is like your blind spot. So that relationship thing, it's like the blind spot. It's like no matter how many times you feel like you've learned this lesson, like you're still like changing lanes and someone's like honking at you. It's like, um, and this one's about that idea of fear as an evolutionary tool and transcending that. Like we needed it in the past, not only fear of like survival fear, but fear from a reproduction standpoint of like being afraid
Of
of,
more kids. I'm just kidding.
of what now?
I said of more kids. No, I'm just
That is a modern fear. um, but it's like that tension and polarity between male and female of like it's like hot to be in that tension of like it's a little dangerous. Like there's some danger there.
yeah,
And the man's greatest fear of being tied down and not being able to go out and procreate far and wide.
the
And then
mother wound.
what now?
The mother wounds. The
Mm,
masculine energy afraid of being engulfed and the feminine energy afraid of being left.
yep, exactly. Exactly. And having that tension and that fear there. And the 59 talking about transcending that. And it talks a lot about what we're actually experiencing collectively right now in this real shift around gender, and moving away from the gender polarities that we're experiencing,
Of course.
and kind of seeing that um, it's really that unity of polarity that's coming in that androgyny that's kind of arising.
Wow. So does like my experience with the 59th play into the thing with the 55th? So like
Mhm.
part of my path to freedom is also includes this releasing the victimization, also releasing the if I understood it right,
Mhm.
because a lot of what I feel like I'm currently transcending is it's me versus my own security system. Like what kept me safe at some point now just gets in the way. Now is like a filter. Is that kind of like a 59
Mhm.
lesson? Okay.
That is kind of a Gene Keys thing. what kept you safe before, what you held to, how you know how to operate, that's all going to disintegrate as you move through this process and you become aware and your DNA begins to shift and change. You're opening up the capacity for new frequencies to be coming in, and it could be disorienting at different stages of the process.
Wow.
So yeah. But the victimization transcending into freedom in the first is it's like you go from one to the next, but you never like you start here at number one, but number one never leaves you. Like it's still a cycle. So then you just like add another spinning plate over here as you start to focus in on this one. But they are what he terms programming partners. So in the DNA, in the and I am not a scientist by any means, in case no one's noticed so far. um, there's something about DNA and that they need partners. These yeah, I'm not even going to try the terminology,
Yeah.
but let me see if he can hold on.
I have to say programming partners. There are a ton of people in here I've noticed that have that are sleeping phoenix, and they have the same numbers. So it's just interesting. So I'm glad this is probably great for everyone that's got all this stuff here. Um, it's interesting that we're in a collective with so many of the same DNA.
That is, and just being that magnet, like you're working through that, and so there's all these other people that are resonating
Yeah.
with those same particular, things, so I feel like I'm doing, like, a collective reading at
Yeah, no, this is sick. Do you do these, by the way, do you do these? Can people
Mhm.
schedule one of these with you? Okay.
Yes, and I'm usually a little bit more, step 1, step 2, step 3, but I feel like in this energy of, like, just throw that out the fucking window.
It would probably help if I shut up. Um,
Oh, I know what I was gonna say about the 59th. This idea of, the terms for this one is dishonesty to intimacy to transparency. And so it's this idea that we're afraid of people when we know that they're holding something back. Like we know, I don't trust that. Like there's something there that we just know they're hiding something from us. And it could be a myriad of things, but this idea that intimacy comes from disclosure, this um, sharing and just being really honest with yourself so that you can be honest with another. And I told you this stuff unlocks things for me. And today I was writing, and this idea of rage and sharing your rage with someone close to you is an incredibly intimate act.
wow.
Yeah, it's blew my mind. But it is like that power, that raw identifying as female, like that raw feminine power
Yeah.
just expressed, just not everyone can handle that. Not I don't share that with everyone. It's not out in the world for others to see. It is reserved for those that I love, which a lot of time like you'll hear the old saying about like, you only hurt the ones you love.
Right.
And being from that old paradigm of like codependency of like it's their fault or it's directed at them or whatever. What I'm
Right.
talking about is just that energy of having a safe space to let it out.
This has been a big theme for me recently. Couple things. Number one, if I really struggle when someone, don't lose both of these thoughts, Jasmine. If someone is saying something to me, and it's even if it's like they're judging in their head, but then they're saying something nice because they don't want to be a dick or whatever. I can't I can't interact if there is something not being said. And so I really need like so I kind of shut down. And so like I can't do small talk is because small talk is fake. We're faking here.
Mhm.
And it like freaks me. It makes me anxious and I start like glitching out. I would rather just and I used to jokingly say like can we just be like have you processed your sexual trauma at like parties? You know what I mean? Can we just talk about game life? Can we talk about something that's real? Because like when people are like talking about the weather or whatever, like it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And it's like that. It's especially like that in like relationships or when a lot of times is when people are being nice. It like rubs me the wrong way because we're not telling the truth right now.
Mhm.
Or I wake
Mhm.
up, almost worse it gets. And then the other thing I was going to talk about, you were just talking about that intimacy, being seen when I am not, when I'm weak. I've really been struggling. Yeah, weak. When I'm vulnerable
Mm.
is so hard for me.
Mhm.
And in since COVID started and then the tick and then all the body stuff and then just not being able to have my shit together. But even in like 18 and 19, Mormon and the meth head was this like gradual descent into me emotionally falling the fuck apart. And it was funny because when I met him, the person who was on that podcast with me, I said, it's really hard for me for people to think I don't have my shit together. And he was like, are there people that think you have your shit together? Because he could just like see me, but nobody else could because I don't let them see me. And that's something that I've noticed lately is like how how intimate it is for me to let someone watch me not be able to walk to the refrigerator
Mhm.
is like I'd kind of rather be dead. It's like it says so much that I am like that I let someone see me like that because I've like historically done things where I'll just injure myself further just to not let people see me be weak. And it's the same thing with like emotionally unraveling or I recently learned how to cry in front of people, but anger is still embarrassing to me.
Mhm.
And so that's very I'm sure this is true for a lot of people, but I
Mhm.
um so much of that security system and so much of that like how I've protected myself my entire life. And I'm like intimacy is like letting those guards down. I like historically pick partners, romantic partners who can't handle my vulnerability. Like they would mirror that back to me.
Funny how that happens.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Yeah, it's getting emotionally naked
Yeah.
just by being
Right.
being who you are and being honest about it. That's the thing, moving from that dishonesty of I'm going to hide it because you don't like it in when it's in front of you, when you can tell and you can feel that someone's hiding something. And yet it
Yeah.
is the thing that we go to, like you said, I don't want to be seen as weak. So I'm going to hide this from you. I'm not going to show you who I really am. I'm not going to be open and intimate with you because showing you who I am, like the good parts, that's fine. Let's be intimate there.
Right.
But the bad parts, that's where it, quote, bad.
Oh God, I was so dishonest. I realized like at the beginning of romantic relationships, I would spend a lot of time like making fun of like clingy women or women with anxious attachment systems before I knew what it was. And like now I look back and go like, who was I trying? I was like trying to convince the other person that I wasn't like that, and also trying to convince myself to where when it got like balls out, I was like, oh, these are my characteristics, and I have just like tried to convince myself.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That old, if you spot it, you've got it.
Mhm. He who
Yeah.
sees it dealt it. Is that a thing?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, not the parts, but
I was aiming to go above the
yeah,
comfort, but if we're being complete, if we're being intimate, Josa,
yeah. I will go low every time. All right. So I go 55, 59. What do I have after that? 34?
34. 34. I've slept since then. Let me look at my notes. This is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we're at.
I love it.
Oh, force to strength. Oh, I love this one. It is. It's about force of like, I'm gonna make it happen. Arr! Like, I'm just gonna will this into being. And it's that like I can't stop moving because things will fall apart if I stop moving kind of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm familiar. Yeah. Yeah, it's more about timing. Because like what is that? The hydraulics on like a door, like a screen door.
Mhm.
Like you open it up, and then if you let it close or you feel it, like you can feel it, like
Yeah.
then it'll release and you can just close it with ease. Or if you just go to like push it, I'm gonna force that door closed. That's the simplest example I can give you of like the force.
Before doing nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're expending so much energy, you're just trying. And if you just take a deep breath, just let it be, just feel into it. What is that timing? What is that right timing? And then what arises is your strength. Because it's like hemorrhaging in force. You're just letting it just kind of ooze out. But in strength, it's like, oh, I have all of my resources to move this forward. It can happen.
It's kind of a shift from like what I would call like heavy masculine, like old masculine energy to like a more feminine um energy. But I used to be a just absolutely super impatient. Like everything was a test in patience for me because I was just trying to push everything down and like everything is like just a timing. So I experience time so much faster than everyone else. And so a day is 100 years. And so I was just like, I used to just beat my head into brick walls and like life would not give every single thing in my life. If I was excited about a new car, it would take an extra 3 days to get there in the color that I wanted. And I would be like, I'm just going to get a different color. And my dad's like, just wait for the color that you want. 3 days. You're going to own this car for years. What do you do? And I would just like, I have to do this right now. This has to be done right now. And I still have some of that energy in me.
Mhm.
But just being old, I think I've just like gotten older and learned that like I don't actually get the door closed faster pushing it. I just kind of freak the fucking door out. And yeah, that's a great metaphor for just going, okay, whatever, you know.
It's
I
not its way. It's gonna do, and it does the thing where it goes like, and then it like closes.
oh, I might use that. That's a great.
Oh man. Yeah, what was I gonna say? See, here comes mine. The 34 in your human design chart is in your sacral,
Okay.
and that is the gate of power. And that is that pushing that you can make incredible things happen in the world. And it's connected to the 20, which is in the throat. So it's all about like expressing that power and sharing that power and getting that out into the world. And in yours, that connection is unconscious. That's the red line that goes from the sacral up to the throat. And so like you don't even realize that you're doing it. You're just speaking about like, oh, it's gotta be faster, it's gotta be faster, it's gotta be faster. Like that's like just your wiring.
Nice.
So
Stick with it.
yeah. And there's something that's really interesting about our experience of time is that it's all internal. Time externally doesn't exist. It's literally just a feeling. And we experience anxiety in the world when our internal perception of time doesn't match the external expression of time. like in the environment we're in. So I've heard you talk about like being in New York City and everybody's kind of like rushing around and it's just like too much energy. Like that's not matching your internal state. And so it's bringing up this like anxiety, like there's something that doesn't match here. No, don't like it. Bad. And then conversely, with the door, with the force, like your internal engine being faster, revving, and this external thing just feels like it's not moving. So there's that frustration and impatience that comes out.
I always just thought that was because New York smelled bad. It's actually New York City stresses me out because they love struggle. There's just everything's hard, but it's mostly that people are in my aura, and I don't like people standing in my aura. It's like somebody plugging their like hard drive into your hard drive, and it's like, well, now I'm downloading all your shit. Why? I don't get the fuck out of my aura. And man, did COVID just create a fucking reality of heaven for me. But when people operate slowly, I do feel like I'm being tortured. I do. It's like I have to continuously be like, Jessa, people are not doing this to fuck with you. It's been interesting being around Mark, who actually probably moves faster than like most.
I was gonna say you're in Nashville. Like, I said, and you're in Nashville. Like that's like
it's the pandemic, and I don't leave the house much. I can like check out. I'm actually not very aggressive, like out on the road and stuff. But when I want to move something forward and I can't move it forward because someone has to think about it, I can't wrap my mind around it. I'm like, what? Right now, like what are you going to do? You have to think for a week. Like what? I can't, everything I do, and I make tons of mistakes, but it's all just, it's immediate instinct. I remember when I moved out of here, I told Mark, I'm going to go get a place in Phoenix. And he was like, okay. It wasn't like, it was something I was looking into for a while. But then I was like, I have readings until 3 tomorrow. So, I mean, I was out. I was like packed and out within 17 hours. And he was like, Jesus. And I only didn't leave that night because I had readings the next day. And half the time I'll move a reading, but I knew I was going to be driving for 5 days. So, I don't get thinking about it. I get that other people do, but like, I can't even picture what that looks like because I'm like, how do you not just like, do you end up with the same answer that was your gut in the first place? If I think about things too long, they get really weird and abstract, Yeah. But
it's like saying the word spatula really slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is that how you say it?
Exactly that. And so and I've tried on every different thing. I've tried on when I first got clean, my parents were like, this is impulse. You have like poor impulse control. You make decisions too fast. And I was like, oh, okay, that might be because I'm an addict. Let me fix it. And it was it was essentially me going, I think I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to think about it for 24 hours. And then for 24 hours, I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to buy the car, but I guess sitting here for some reason, I'm like, what do you want me to pro and con it? I know. Yes. Like I just like fucking. And so, I've learned, and I did end up making a few mistakes out of fear because I tried to weigh things. And when you weigh things, it's weak. You can get really fucked up. And that's not for everybody, but it's like for me. And also 5 minutes of thinking about something is a week for me. And so I was like, okay, no, I just make fast decisions. There's not a lot of evidence of me making massive mistakes this way. So like, I'm just going to go with like the way that I do things. And then I had to learn to stop tethering myself. That if I tether myself in business or relationships with people who can't hang, we hate each other within a year because they feel railroaded by me. And I really honestly feel like they're fucking with me. I'm like,
yeah.
What do you mean you're thinking about it? You don't want to do it. If you're thinking about it, you're thinking about how to tell me you don't want to do it, which is like not true. I get that. But man, will I slam your fucking your hydraulic door if you make me wait.
Oh man. Oh, I am a manifesting generator like magnet, but I'm a mental projector. So I am the one I'm like, you say you want to do something. So you just like, I literally see them like they're in like face in a closet, just like throwing things like this is gotta go and this is gotta, let's do this. And I'm just like literally behind them, just like picking things up. Like there are things that need to be thought about here. Trying to like hold all the shit. I'm like, have you thought about? I'm like, oh, there's another one. Like literally all of you. Love it. Love it. I've learned like these systems have helped me to see it with humor and to just be like, oh, that's just them. Like, like again, like you said, like I think they're fucking with me. Like that's what it feels like. I'm like, are you fucking serious right now?
Yeah, I think I'm surrounded by projectors now. My 2 younger kids are projectors. Mark's a projector. There's other projectors. Lacey's a projector. So I'm like learning a lot about that perspective. And then I have been in love with 3 manifesting generators, a generator, and a projector. So I think that means I'm growing up. I think when I was young, I was like, they have to be a manifesting generator. Otherwise, I'm going to run over with this train. Weirdly, I feel like Mark is better than anyone else with hanging with the pace at which I do things. But when we first met, he was like, I move too fast for everybody. It drives everyone nuts. And then the first couple times he saw me move, he was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. As a projector, I have learned the skill of just like standing back to like not get my toes run over by like something just like whizzing by. Yeah.
I've also learned to stop making other people go at the pace. So I have figured out how to like, if I am tethered to someone, how to kind of have like a leash, like we're still connected, but I can still do all of this and I'm not dragging you around, which I did have to learn. That was the way.
But so much of your pace is just because your wisdom really does live in your body. You do have that sacral, that or like it is just like a thing
for me. So someone who's mental isn't like my answers are coming from my gut, right? Like that's not how other people are wired.
Yeah, not everyone. Not everyone. Manifesting generators and generators can have that amazing skill. I am a mental projector, so I only have the ajna and the throat, like these 2 centers. So a mental projector is a projector that only has a combination of the top 3, so throat up.
Wow.
And mine is external. So when people talk about like go with your gut or listen to your heart, it knows the way. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have no clue what that means. Does not happen for me. Mine is external. I can literally hear it in my voice. So like when I was saying earlier how like we're hearing this at the same time, it's just as much a surprise to me. Like that is how my intuition works. So I literally have to take that 24-hour waiting period before having making a major purchase. And mine is super weird in addition to being invited. So like what invitation is there? Like, is my car like completely broken down that I need it? Like, is that my invitation? Like having to figure that shit out on top of it is like a whole other thing.
Being a projector sounds exhausting. I gotta be honest.
I'm not gonna lie, it does feel like that some days.
So yeah, it's really interesting the painting with a broad brush of like spiritual advice or whatever, because that's what human design didn't teach me much about myself. I didn't get into the gates and the whatever, but I was like, manifesting generator, yeah, that feels true. Sleep with Phoenix, yeah, sleep with Phoenix. Sleeping Phoenix. Investigative martyr is a fantastic fucking description of how I live my life, but other than that, I feel like human design gave me an understanding of how other people operate. And how they don't like they just literally don't have that. Like they're getting quick gut answers. They actually have to process things. And
Mhm.
so I'm not right. They're not right. No one's like, everyone just is something different. And that's why I think there is a lot of, obviously we can over identify with a lot of this stuff, but I think there's so much value in, um,
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a nervous breakdown when I found my human design. I came unglued for months. I was inconsolable. I thought that I was in this box. There were things that I could never do. I'm super weird. I'm never going to fit in. I'm never going to figure it out. I'm never going to be able to have a life or do what I want to do because I'm quirky. I'm weird. And I felt like it was just like wall after wall after wall of things that were keeping me in when it took a while for it to all sink in and be like, okay, no. Like, let go of all of that shit, and really just, like, kick the tires and see what works for you and what doesn't, and I've really kind of shifted some things around, and it's been useful since the reframe, and Gene Keys was actually really a great one to really kinda help me out of that and to see myself for the creative person that I am and allow that to come forward, instead of feeling like I was super limited and constricted.
Um, I love that. I love it as like a place to kind of validate and understand the energy that you're working with and then get in the workaround rather than being like, I'm in this box now.
Yeah, yeah. It did also make me stop wanting to kill everyone in my life. Because just like what you were saying, it's like, "Oh, okay, they're just a that type." Like,
Yeah,
"Okay, now got it." Like, I know what I'm working with.
yeah. Oh, I love this awareness. Um, I will butcher it, but I got one of the most powerful energy readings I've ever gotten from you. Powerful time. Um, it was. I feel like a lot of time energy work feels, and I haven't had a ton of energy work done on me. So, energy work feels like the person's doing the energy work, whatever. And this had this is an example of what we are going to be doing moving forward, which is you're going to download your gift and you're not going to get certified for it. It's your thing that you brought from whatever galactic place. And so we did a session. And it was so interesting is, and I don't want to give too much of it away, but it was like on a Zoom thing. And we weren't really talking much, but I knew I could tell everything that was happening. Like it's movement with your hands, but I was watching the story and what it was.
Yeah, I joke that I got energy charades.
Yeah, that's a great description of it. Anyway, I highly recommend it for anyone looking for energy. Do you want to try to explain it?
I can try.
Yeah.
It came in, I was trying to figure out my gifts, and I knew I had something, and everyone who had any sort of spidey senses whatsoever would meet me and be like, "Oh my god, you." And I'm like, "Who are you talking about?" Because they were like, "You've got this, like, whole team that's, like, trying to talk to you, and you've got, like, all this stuff." And I'm like, "Could you tell them to send it certified, please?" Because it was not coming through. I would just be there and, like, I have no idea what you people are talking about. And it finally, like, the clouds parted and my gifts came in. And because it was something that I wanted and I was studying and I was doing the meditations and I was trying to find a healthy path to it, I feel like that supported me when it did finally come in. And my guides told me, like, okay, we're here. We have things for you, and you have to work with other people in order to get more information. And so in the beginning, they told me it just had to do with timelines. And I was like, that sounds like fun. What do we do? They're like, we'll show you. All right. And now it seems that I've been doing it for a little while. It does seem like it is timeline focused, but not in the way that we think about it, because we think about timeline of like, oh, I'm just gonna like go from this track to this track. But there's a lot of healing, and I was really reluctant to be like a healer, but I'm really more of a facilitator of like what your higher self and what your soul wants to do. And you're just like a cell phone that your little auto update got like kicked to the side somehow. So it's just kind of going in to be able to allow the energy in for where your soul desires you to go. And yeah, there's a lot of hand movements, which is good because I talk with my hands quite a bit. So, yeah. And
to not go out.
so yeah, there's a lot of movement that comes through, and I'm not entirely sure if it's light language or what it is, but it is amazing.
It's
Yeah.
just a little bit of mine. What was it? What the masculine went kind the masculine.
Oh, yeah. Like it does. It plays out like a little. I haven't gone to puppets yet, but it's
Yeah,
almost there. We're almost there.
yeah.
Yeah, like the energy. So the masculine is the right hand, the moving out into the world, which is why I asked you about your knee, by the way. It's in your masculine side. It's in the going out into the world part that's like janky. Like, don't do that yet. I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and so then the left is the feminine, the receiving energy. So that sort of informs how things play out. And the masculine energy was just like sad and pitiful, and it just doesn't want to move, didn't want to. And this is where I was talking about earlier, how that conscious awareness helps you to make different choices.
Mhm.
It was playing out, and we kept talking, and I said, we're just going to gumshoe this. We're just going to figure it out. Um, and that playing out brings it to your conscious awareness so that you can step into that sovereignty and make those different choices. Because I feel like there was a lot that came through about the masculine energy and allowing that in and healing things around that masculine side and moving out into the world and in relation. And it's that healing that allows you to make different choices, to have different reactions, different attitudes, that changes the chemical structure, which changes your DNA, your thoughts, like the whole thing. And
Yeah.
then just
Um, yeah, it was like I remember like I guessed a couple things, and then it wouldn't do anything, and then I kinda started to put in like, I kinda started to get it, and it did this. It was so much pressure, and I was just like, "Yo, back up." And, it was that I had just gotten abandoned by someone, and I had done all this work leading up to that to, like, open up and be vulnerable, and then I had just kinda gotten discarded by a friend out of nowhere, and it, like that masculine protect like, my, like, masculine hard exterior to protect myself was, like, back, and I was, seeing my lack of like, capacity for being vulnerable or intimate in other areas, and what I kinda got from there was so much pressure in this was just, like, "What are you gonna do without me?" And it because I kinda knew, like, I have to release this thing, and so then as I was, like it's like, my unconscious masculine energy
Mhm.
almost, and, I've wanted to tell the story on the podcast. I've wanted to have you come on and tell a story on the podcast, but I think the story can probably only be told on the live stream because you can't quite get I
I
mean,
don't think that really translates. Like,
pressure that fucking hand was. And like the entire time is not your hand, it's my energy. Like you're like communicating my energy. And a lot of times you would just be laughing because it would be doing something funny, but I knew I could like completely read what was happening. And so we had this moment and then it died and then it came back and then they danced together for a
yeah,
while.
yeah,
Remember?
the masculine and the feminine just did this like really lovely. It was almost like birds flying in a flock, or fish swimming in a school. There was like a lot of that, like, and I can even feel it right now. There's like there is polarity. Like that's a lot of what I'm dealing with is just like this feeling of magnets in my hands, and they do like they push apart, come together. they do what they're going to do, and it does a little dance.
This, your story is a prime example of, I don't think that, like, nobody should ever get certified in anything. But so many people are like, well, how do I get in touch with my guides? How do I create my whatever? And it's like, you have to have the balls to just allow, and you're going to feel so weird. Like, if you really want to talk to your guides, get back to your inner child and talk to your invisible friends.
Mm-hmm.
There is security in getting certified in someone else's healing art, but you're a galactic being who brought something from somewhere else and it hasn't been channeled here yet. Gene keys, someone had to channel that. Someone had to channel human design. If they didn't have the balls to put something out that didn't previously exist, I'm not saying you don't have balls if you don't do this, but like, it really is playing pretend is what it feels like. The energy is like, and we laughed through a lot of the reading because you were like, some of this I don't even know.
Oh yeah, it's fucking hysterical. Yeah, and I was like, does that mean anything to you? Because I'm not a reader. I don't read your energy. I don't know what the fuck is happening with you. I'm asking questions all the time and putting together pieces from things that I've learned, different things along the way, different messages from my guides that maybe came in last week, like that kind of stuff. Like it's kind of playing out or just listening. There was one that I did where it kept doing this and just kind of like dying, like doing the thing. And it was doing it on my journal. And I was like, do you want to say something? Is there something in there? Like it literally was like thud, like on my journal that was next to my thing. So yeah, it is. It really is. I for the first 2 months, I was just like, every conversation was like, this is so fucking weird, but
that is my favorite thing in the world. And you did you used the Imagination Project,
mm-hmm.
Mystic. This is like the only part of Imagine. I haven't been on there in a month and a half, but the only part of Imagination Project that I feel like is doing what I wanted, like, is functioning so far is the Mystic Apprenticeship, which is giving people who are downloading their gifts a place to provide those for people who don't have that circle. So you were trying it there, right? So if you guys aren't, I feel like everyone on the $20 tier, they're like the veterans here. But Imagination Project, imagination with a Z, project.com. The Mystic Apprenticeship is a place where if you are just learning how to do readings or healing sessions or anything else and you want a place to practice without the pressure of collecting money yet, you just offer it up and people come get those sessions. And then
yeah, I've offered and had great response. And thank you to everyone who has trusted me with my, like, I don't know what this is, but let's come play. And it's been really, really amazing to hear how things have shifted for different people around different things. And then also I've gotten some amazing work from some amazing healers in the group. So healers and readers, and had some really amazing discussions with people. So yeah, it's been amazing. I am so grateful to you for bringing this vision to life.
I love it. I'm going to get Mark a gene key reading and one of those healing sessions. I just haven't gotten on the internet in a year. Okay, where can people find you?
I am at lauraolson.com. And the Laura Olson on Instagram, because my name was all taken and now I sound narcissistic with like or I'm the. Yeah, and that's Olson with an E, Olsen.
Amazing. I would love to do a podcast with you soon if I ever put out another podcast episode. All right.
I'm here for it. This is great. Oh my gosh, so amazing.
I'm so stoked. The last couple live streams I did, I feel like I bring brain fog and then the person has to swim upstream my brain fog, and I didn't feel that way on this one. So I'm stoked. This was great. Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. This was great. Mine didn't kick it like my little, I don't know what to call mine, but it's literally like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Like that, like spotting bad connection thing.
Yeah.
Did not show up. Did not show
No,
up.
it was
So
amazing. I'm good. See, this is why you have to do it like right when I also didn't get your email. I almost didn't book it. Let me see if there's any questions. Um,
oh yeah, yeah. Hello everyone. I didn't even
there's a few, but we're an hour and a half in and I need to drink some more water. Um uh yeah, same. I hadn't even thought to measure my legs.
oh my gosh.
I just got a longer the DNA upgrade. I'm taller now.
I wish I could order that up. Okay. Been reading about now crew ADD is taking over. Wondering if there's possibly a link to certain neurotransmitters becoming irrelevant with intro to new humans. The new humans being like the 2027. I don't know about the neurotransmitters becoming irrelevant. That is interesting. That sounds like a fun rabbit hole for me to go down because I've been doing a lot of research about that. But what I do know is that in the human design, when you look at the body graph, it has 9 centers and it looks similar to our chakra system, but then there's like 2 off to the side. That was actually a split that happened, I want to say like 1800s, something like that. So I feel like 2027 and beyond, there's going to be a new body graph. It's like the chakra system, like it's split in the human design system. So I'm curious to see if they're showing the energy centers in different places, if that changes. But yeah, that'll be really cool to see.
Yeah, we had a conversation in the Soberish group the other day about autism, and I have always felt like ADD and autism are things that
Mhm.
are pathologized. Is that a word? Um,
Mhm.
they're not a problem. We just haven't caught up to them yet.
Yep.
So a
I
lot
agree.
of stuff is like that's the ideal we're trying to get to, and like a lot of the I have gotten in trouble for saying this before, but not to say that there's never been pain caused by that, but it's like the world hasn't caught up yet, so it's not a hospitable environment for
Mhm.
or autism. But if the world was set up in a more kind of authentic way and not
Mhm.
overstimulating and not everybody spending every waking moment um, doing what they don't want to do out of guilt and obligation. Like it's the world is set up pretty fucked up, and now we're all starting to feel this like anxiety and this whatever
Mhm.
knocking us out all out of balance. If you brought these like advanced galactic beings into the like reality before reality was ready, that's like kind of how this would manifest.
Ah, I see. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, because they're very sensitive. They do have like a specific gift or skill or ability. Like they're all very specialized, very specific, and they all yeah, there's so much to that.
I was diagnosed with severe ADHD when I was young, obvi, and medicated and shit, and I sold the meds, but I don't find it to be I can focus really hard on something if I'm into it. And like
Mhm.
I'm just not very programmable. And so like they
Mhm.
like this is a and I'm curious if I would be diagnosed differently now as having something if I was a kid now and they actually had girls weren't even getting diagnosed with ADD back then. But
Mhm.
um I don't consider it an impediment as long as I am able to cultivate my environment in a way that I'm free to allow my mind to do what my mind uh, wants to do. And like, so more and more and more, I am cultivating my environment and cultivating my connections and cultivating my work and everything else I mean, I've done that with this Patreon even. Like, I can't commit when my brain is going to be ready to do this. Like, I can't tell you that. I can't, like, I have to be able to schedule things like this. I have to be able to take time off if I need to take time off. Like,
Mhm.
um, and that doesn't work with shoving me in school and teaching me things I don't give a fuck about, especially now. Like, I'm like, so much stuff now, I'm like, oh, I was so bad at history because it felt like bullshit to me. Like, if I could go back to that age where I would tune it out, I was like, it just feels fake. And then, well, if fake. And so it's that sort of thing to where I was just 18 years ahead of my time. And I think a lot of things that we, even like anxiety and depression, manic depression, like, not that these things don't, I'm not a doctor, but a lot of these things I think we're going to find are manifestations of a world out of balance, a society out of balance,
Yes.
than individual, you know,
Mhm. Yeah. In Gene Keys, he talks a lot about dragonflies. That's just kind of like a thing that he just loves. And I believe he goes into it in the 55. And he talks about how, and I believe you talked about this an episode recently about how they um, they don't need the help getting out of the chrysalis. They need that pressure
yeah,
to move the hydraulics of the liquid, of the water into their wings to be able to fly. But also, dragonflies specifically are um, an indication of the health of an environment.
oh, shit.
So if the environment is out of balance, they'll just die off, or they won't be present. But if you're in a place where there are a lot of dragonflies, there's going to be there is a balance there because they're so sensitive. And I feel like when we're talking about like ADHD and autism, it feels like they're the dragonflies. Where people talk about like the canary in the coal mine, but that feels like uh, nobody should be in a coal mine,
Yeah,
let alone canaries.
yeah.
But but yeah, dragonflies are that symbol of the health of a symbiotic system.
I'm not sure if I got this right, but aren't dragonflies born? They're like water creatures, and then they mutate into something else during their lifetime.
Mhm. Yeah, very much like butterflies too. And one of my very favorite illustrations about butterflies is when they do cocoon, when the caterpillar goes in, wraps up into the cocoon. If you were to open it right there when they're in that cocoon, in the chrysalis, it would just be goo. They literally disintegrate.
That's so. I feel like I learned that last year, and then the chrysalis thing this year, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
Um,
Feel lack of confidence in my abilities. How do I get past that? Kids are working with kids and energy work. Oh wow. Much needed working with children and introducing them to energy. Um, no certificate. Wow, that is my life. I am not certified in anything. I feel like I should walk around with a I don't know. It's something that I've dealt with. I make the joke. It's not entirely true, but I make the joke that I only have a 7th grade education because I was taken out of public school and was put into a private school and then subsequently homeschooled. Um, and it was a very odd growing up history. And it's something that I felt like I've had to continually come back to about not proving myself and just kind of being with what it is. And when this ability came forward for me, it was literally just a flash of a thought. Like, what if I acted like all of these intuitions that I'm getting right now are true? What if I just wrote them down and just pretended like they're absolutely true? What would happen? And it was literally just an experiment. I'm like, I'm writing it down in a journal that no one's ever going to see. And then I started to be able to verify this stuff with other information. I began to connect dots and see things coming together that I wouldn't have seen those connections if I hadn't been writing it down and going, "Oh, I wonder, is this true? How could this be true?" And opening myself up to that, um, and slowly getting more and more information, and really feeling like that's my guides taking me to those places where that information exists for me to then unpack more in my gifts, in the energy that's coming in, and being able to make those choices, just kind of be in it. And it's been so wonderful, and Jessa, I've told you a million times, thank you so much for the imagination project of just being around people that are on the same frequency that you are. I don't share this with just anyone,
Right.
um, because it is like I am still on so many levels, like that butterfly in the cocoon, I'm goo.
Yeah. I'm perpetually sometimes I go, "Oh, I have wings now," and it's like, "Psych, you're goo again." I
Yeah.
feel like I could talk to you all day, but I wanna save some stuff for a podcast, so, thank you guys. Check her out, get a reading. Um, Thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys later.
Thank you so